Okay. Should be on now.
Check 1, 2. Do you see any bars moving? Any other?
Yeah. Okay.
Okay, we're done. 42, 8. 32, 38. Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. Alhamdulillahi nahmaduhu wa nasta'inuhu wa nastaghfiruhu wa nu'minu bihi wa nastaqwalu alayhi wa na'udu billahi min shururi anfusina wa min sayyiati a'malina. Man yahdihillahu fala mudilla wa min yahdihillahu fala hadiya lahu wa ashhadu an la ilaha illahu wahdahu la sharika lahu wa ashhadu anna Muhammadan abduhu wa rasuluhu. Allahumma salli ala Muhammadin wa ali wa ashabihi wa aswajihi wa duriyatihi wa alibatihi wa salam tasliman kathir. And so all the praises are due to Allah. It is Him that we praise and exalt. We associate no partners with Him. We seek forgiveness and assistance from Allah, and we believe in Him. And to this, His will, we resign our wills and our trust. We seek refuge in Him from the evil of our soul and His actions. And whomsoever Allah guides, none can mislead him. And whomever do not follow His guidance, there's no guidance for him. I testify that there's none worthy of worship except Allah, the one God. And I bear witness and to that fact, and also that Muhammad is His chosen messenger, upon him be the prayers and the peace. And we ask that Allah send His boundless blessings on Muhammad, on his family, his companion, his wives, his progeny, and all of his relatives. Ameen. We extend the greetings to you, dear Muslims, of Assalamu alaikum, and welcome to the Islamic Perspective Hour. I'm your host today, Imam Tamir, and we're going to jump right into our subject matter, actually an extension of Friday's khutbah. And so what we like to do is go right into the last part of I always like to start at the last part and work our way back to the beginning. And then I found that when I do that sometimes, dear believers, I catch some things in hindsight. There were some aspects of the Juma that I had intended to touch upon, and I kind of omitted them because I was looking at the clock and trying to stay mindful of the time and didn't get a chance to read that part. So I'm going to start all the way at the last part where I forgot the part where I wanted to talk about, and that was we were talking about signs and symbolisms, and we were referring to Vice President Kamala Harris's name and what it meant. And so we know, those of us who are studying Quranic Arabic in general, we know that Kamala is an Arabic root. It has a root meaning to it, I should say. And it means to be whole, to make a thing whole again, to put it back together the way it was the first time. And not only that, but to perfect it, to make it perfect and to complete it. This is the meaning of Kamala, or Kamala, as they pronounce it. And so our assumption is that if she lives up to those attributes, then out of that, we should have a pretty good president. If she lives up to those attributes, she will undoubtedly be able to undo a lot of the political wrangling that's been going on, if I might use that expression, that's been going on for quite some time in the highest office in the land, and the abuse of power from past presidents that has happened in that office. So we'll be looking forward to seeing how Vice President Harris will handle that office, inshallah, if she should win. And right now, as we speak, the last time we looked at some of the polls, the race is still looking kind of close. That brings me to, why is the race so close? Because we have factions of people who, for whatever reasons, they want to support a leadership that is tainted with corruption, it's tainted with malfeasance and misbehavior. And that particular individual, in our humble estimation, is really just a composite or a reflection, so to speak, of the general population, in which we have a great deal of the country, almost half of the country, that is siding with this particular mentality or this particular person who wants to become the president. And that poses a dangerous threat to those of us who are accustomed to having humanity strive and do the things that it was designed to do by Allah, the Creator. Allah has given us many freedoms, and all of these freedoms should be in accordance with His will. Whatever freedoms we have, and if it's not in accordance with Allah's will, it's a freedom we should abandon. It's a freedom that we probably can't even call freedom. And we won't even say that it's the freedom of the animals, because that's an insult to them. And I say this all the time. The animals, there are things the animals won't do that the humans will do, but yet we'll equate our behavior with that being below that of an animal. So the animals, they gave me a message. They say, tell them don't include us in their bad analogies. Anyway, just digressing a bit. So that was Kamala's first name, the description of her first name. The last name, which is Harris, as I was doing some research, I found that it's a derivative. It's a derivative, once again, from another Arabic meaning word known as hara. Hara in Arabic, it means to fall, to ruin. And then there's another form of that word that means to be weak, to be infirm, or tottering. You know, like you're about to fall over. You're unbalanced. You're not balanced. And then there's a seventh form of this word, which means to fall in ruins, to tumble to pieces. Now, we want to take the high road, and we want to assume the positive characteristics of this name, of Vice President Harris's last name. We want to assume the positive part. And the positive part is that if her attributes apply to her competition, or the person is running against her, then she should be able to pull out his weaknesses, which that has been done. If you've seen any of the debates, we've seen a great deal of what the media and many of us have termed to be mental instability. Yeah, just mentally unstable. And if we are to use that as one of our judging platforms for selecting leaders, then that's a big cue to invest in leadership in which the mentality is fallible on just about on all levels. And so she's been able to pull this out. And if the platform which she's working from, if it continues to be impactful, and if she has a chance to pull in those swing states, then it's going to look real good for the Democratic Party, and it's going to look real good for this country. So her last name, we hope it does just that. We hope it brings the competition to ruins. We hope he tumbles down. We hope he falls to pieces, because that's just leadership we can't afford to have. Anytime your own cabinet members, they're coming out of the walls, as they say, the woodwork, and they're telling the things about this guy that we've always known. They knew it too, but they kept it hush hush. But now I guess the inner pain, if we can describe it as such, is so great. And actually a better expression for that the inner pain is actually conscious. Their conscience got struck. And they coming forth now. They're coming forth now. Yes, sir.
And that General Kelly, that's why he couldn't get along with him. He see Trump as a pharaoh type. Couldn't tell him nothing.
Yes, yes. I don't know if it was him or was someone. They say they described him as a fascist.
Yeah.
That he has fascist tendencies. Okay, yeah. That's not a good quality in the character of an American president. That's just something we can't afford.
Let the people know what this man stands for. A
Yeah.
lot of us don't understand.
I don't know. You just made me think of something. It really has to do with the rational thinking process, our minds. It's amazing what the human brain can do when it comes to blocking things out or fabricating its own truths. And it's because Allah gave us this gift. This is a wonderful thing here. But when it's not used properly, it's the most dangerous thing in existence. Our human brain, our human mind. Now, what do we mean by this? We said this before, and I want to try to be as explicit as I possibly can once again. If Muhammad the Prophet Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam, if he was here and he was asked to take a side in this election here, it's pretty obvious he could and would never support a candidate like former President Trump. He can't. And so this is the same position for any Muslim. We have to follow the Sunnah. We have to follow what we know Muhammad would do. It's not about even speaking in hypothetical terms as to whether he was here today. We know just from his history, we know from the basic principles of al-Islam that we could never support that kind of leadership. So blacks, Latinos, Caucasians, Muslims, Christians, whatever you want to be, those who are in support of him as a candidate or support of him for president, the benefits are so minuscule, it's probably not even worth mentioning, because there's only a very, very, very small percentage of people that will actually literally benefit from him being president. And if we go back and look at some of the history that was shown to us by way of the news media, those people were mostly rich. They were the millionaires. If you wasn't in the multimillionaire status, you really didn't get much of a benefit from Trump. The $1,500, the PPE money, that was a one-time thing. It wasn't like he was getting it every month for the last 2 years. No, some people got a few checks, some got one.
He didn't give it out.
He was not really responsible for that. That was Congress.
That's right.
That was Congress. And Congress did that, where I call the principle of benign neglect. The Congress did it to soothe the so-called savage beast, being the American population. They were on hinge. The American populace was about to go overboard, and this country was going to go into chaos. It had become so hungry for material possessions because everything was being rationed. So this was creating a frenzy. And so now the people that were being given that money, once again, it wasn't a lot of money. You was only going to spend it so many places. And then a lot of it was used in fraud, so to speak. So the Congress, don't lose your thoughts. So the Congress passed that to hurry up and give the people a temporary fix on material satisfaction. So they gave out these few dollars, and it did. It would have been far worse than what it was because we still had the riots. They were still looting the stores, but it would have been 10 times worse than that had they not gave out some monetary incentives. So some of the people that got some of the incentive money, it kind of quieted them down, but it didn't do anything for the majority. Sister Taida?
That's why a lot of African American people is voting for Trump because of they think the stimulus check came from here. And I'm looking at the bigger picture.
Oh, it's so ignorant. It's so ignorant.
One thing, brother man, these people, they do not know who control who to give the okay to pass these bills. The Senate presented, then if Congress look at it, they don't want to give the head.
Oh, they trust me, brother. They know. You have to understand one thing. Every bill that goes between the House and the Senate, there's a lot of compromise. And so if one party don't exactly get what they want, then they'll sit on the other thing and strangle the wants and the needs of the other party. And so we're going through this. And that's why, dear believers, that was the reason why I think Allah blessed me to come up with the topic Friday of Shura Bainahum. Because that would not happen. In a government, in a Shura-ran government, that would not happen. In a Shura-ran government, contentions are held to a bare minimum. Why? Because you work the room, so to speak, you work the room until everybody is in agreement at some point on some level. You might not have gotten all that you want. You're getting some things. So you're going to come on board just for that. Everybody in the room receives some kind of satisfaction. That doesn't happen in the democratic process. One man, one vote, you for it or you against it. The people that wasn't for it, they never get their needs met. And not only that, then they're seen as the enemy. And then you start erecting things to hurt what you call your so-called enemy. That wouldn't happen in Shura Bainahum because there are no enemies. Because everybody is leaving with the understanding that I compromised, but I did get something out the deal. Now, the Prophet ﷺ, this is what he established. And if we say we follow him, then we should be following suit. We should be doing the same thing. We should be trying to run all of our governmental affairs. No, all of our affairs. As I read Friday, that's what the Prophet did. All of our affairs, the internal government, the external government, should be infused with shura. It gives us a better decision at the end of the day. It's going to fare better for most of the people. So even though technically that fans out like a majority process, technically yes, it does. But once again, even the people who did not get all what they wanted, they did get something. And so just by virtue of that, they're able to come on board and the whole agenda can get pushed. And this is what we need to do. And nobody should know this better than the Muslims because it's part of our process. It's part of the Islamic culture. It's part of what we should be doing. And so even when we look at our own localities, when we look into our own localities, and we can gauge the level of progress, a lot of it is based on shura. Direct shura, indirect shura. Direct shura meaning that the people come together and actually voice their opinion about something. Indirect where a body or select few is put together and they carry the desires of the whole. But nevertheless, it still gets met. And so at some point, especially here in Chicago, we got to get that process going again. We really got to get that process going again because it's preventing us from doing things on a higher plateau. and it's keeping us off the world stage, off the world stage. The world stage, on the world stage, we should be seen in such great unity that the people would just be in awe. Their jaws would just drop to see the unity that we would have. And we do have this, but it's on a broader scale. It's on a bigger level. But we need our local Islamic governments, our local Islamic leaders. We need to find a way to continue to continue to strive to keep the Shura principle in our lives. What do we mean by that? It may not always come to a formal meeting of physical bodies, but if we work to do things in principle, we can get a lot done. And the reason why we have to approach it in principle is because physically we don't have the numbers. That's what it is. Principles can go where the physical numbers can't, because the principles are intangibles. They're not necessarily locked in place. But physically we are. And we just don't have the numbers. And a lot of our good soldiers, Allah has called them home. A lot of our good soldiers, men and women, do not have the ability to get out and get around like they used to. And so it leaves us with a small band, just a very small band of believers trying to accomplish a lot of things. But I don't say that to disparage or discourage us. I say that as encouragement, because that's how the Prophet started out, Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam. Small band. First his immediate family, then he went out and got some community members, and then the movement grew from there. So everything starts out small. Everything starts out small. We just have to have belief in it. Sister Tayyid?
I heard the man say, and when he was in Washington, D.C. at the time, he said, there's more Caucasian people that's following him than we are. And he said, one day they're going to come. And if we don't get the job done, they're going to get the job done.
To your point, there's a brother, he has a YouTube channel, Caucasian Muslim. I love to hear him all the time. His name is Shahid Bosman. It's a European last name. But he is so eloquent. But what he does, the way he comes out, if you ever get a chance to hear him, he breaks down the history of the Caucasians. And he does it in such a masterful way. He does it so intelligently that even the Caucasians that are listening to him, that they know they devils, they submit because they know he's right. And the way he covers the history and the knowledge that he brings, it makes you very attentive. So if you ever get a chance, just go on to YouTube and just pull up his Shahid. It'll come up. It'll come up. Shahid Bosnan. What if you even misspell the last name? It'll still come up. Very, very intelligent discourse. We had read in the Quran, which was one of the impetus of why we even got to this particular topic. It was because, once again, it's like a command in the Quran. Allah says, وَالَّذِينَ أَسْتَجَابُوا لِرَبِّهِمْ وَأَقَامُوا الصَّلَاةَ وَأَمْرَهُمْ شُورَى بَيْنَهُمْ وَمِمَّا رَزَقْنَاهُمْ يُنْفِقُونَ. And those who respond to their Lord and observe prayer, and whose affairs are decided by mutual consultation, shura bainahum, we just read it in the Arabic, mutual consultation, and who go on spending out of what we have provided for them. Spending what? Spending out of the blessings. Whatever Allah has given to each and every one of us individually, we use it in his cause. And when we use it in his cause, he multiplies that. Allah tells us he never lets a good deed go unchecked or unrewarded. So every good we do, no matter how small it is, no matter how insignificant we might personally think it is, Allahu Alam, and Allah blesses that effort. He multiplies that effort. He said he multiplies it tenfold, 100-fold, 1,000-fold. He gives to whomsoever he wills. whatever he decides to give. Now, once in the Quran, for those people who are still want to ride that, they want to ride that train of destruction. The train of destruction. What is the train of destruction? The train of destruction is the one that the people get on and they don't see no real benefits, but they want to get on it anyway because somebody told them that was the thing to do. Allah says in 6:6, Surah Al-An'am, the 6th ayat, have these people not considered how many generations we destroyed before them, to whom we had given so firm a hold and power on the earth, such a firm hold as we have not given you? And we sent clouds over them, pouring down abundant rain. And we caused the rivers to flow, subject to their command and control. Yet we destroyed them owing to their sins and raised other generations after them. So Allah here is telling us He has destroyed people greater than us, greater than the efforts that we have put forth today. Allah had to take them out for their misdeeds because they erred. They purposely erred. They with pure intent, with pure intent. And that's when Allah comes out or allows the forces to come out against you. When you come out in the public and you are lewd in the public, meaning that your bad behavior, you put it on public display without any impunity. You don't think you're going to be punished. You don't even care. You just out here just creating havoc for no reason at all, just creating havoc. When that happens, Allah allows the forces of creation. And I say Allah allows. I specifically said that because once again, I want to dispel this myth about Allah punishing people like he got some personal gain from it. We shouldn't speak of Allah in those terms in that language like that. That's a baby language. It's very immature. We have to explain in detail as best we can when Allah exacts the punishment on the people is really because of what they have done. It's not so much as that Allah sitting around trying to find something to be angry about. We have to stop amorphizing Allah, meaning that turning him into a human being. He's not a human being. Allah never was a human being, never will be. And the more that concept is pushed, it weakens the thought process of the people. And then because they can't see Allah clearly, it makes it hard to practice. It makes it hard for your practice to exist because your understanding is not clear. So the things you do is not going to be clear. It's like driving in a car in a rainstorm and you don't have no good windshield wipers. You're going to see something, but it won't be clear. And the risk and the possibility of you running into something is going to be far greater than you not running into something. So in order to have the clear understanding, then we have to wash away or wipe away that which blurs the vision, the spiritual vision. We have to get that out of the way. And the simple lens for that, the filter for that is Al-Islam. All praises due to Allah. That's a simple formula. Oh, that was so simple. Alhamdulillah, that was so simple. We go to another part of the Quran here where Allah talks about people inheriting the land, and it's done to test your conduct. In Yunus, Surah 10, Ayat, where I'm at, 14. Ayat 14. Allah says, then we made you inherit the land after these generations that we might see how you would act. So Allah allows you to inherit the land to test you. These same forces, these people who want to so-called take back the land that they call America, they don't know or see that it's a test. It's a test for them. And should Allah grant them that request and allow them to take back this land, if they use it for abuse and persecution, then Allah will remove, they'll be allowed to remove, just like any other element in creation throughout time that got moved out of the way when it was on a course of promoting destruction, especially in the life of the human being. So Allah is never going to allow even those who seek to dominate the land, unless it's for good purpose, unless it's for his cause, unless it's to put forth his will. Their power, their reign is going to be short-lived. It's going to be short-lived. In Quran, once again, Allah says, 45. No, that was it. That was the one I want to read. Yes. Thumma ja'alnakum khala'ifa fi ardi min ba'dihim linatduru kayfa tahmalun. Yeah, we made you inherit the land after these, that we might see how you would act. So they're going to get their chance and their opportunity to get some of the land, not the physical land. We're talking about governmental control, that kind of land, that kind of control. Last but not least, before we do get out here, and I don't want to forget, this is back now to the signs and the names. So now we just dealt with Vice President Kamala Harris. And I want to go back to a time of so-called excitement once again in the presidential elections. And that was during the time when we were putting forth President Barack Obama. Keep in mind, remember in the beginning, when his name first appeared on the scene and most Americans were unfamiliar with him, the Muslim population right away assumed he was Muslim because they heard the name Barack Obama. So they took their position right away. And they began to rally. They began to rally and rally and rally. Then it was discovered that he was not Muslim and that he was a born Christian. But that's not even the point, because there's some more things I could say about that, but I want to stop here. Here's the point, is the symbolic point is this. It was in his name. That's the lesson. It was in his name, Barak. It wasn't about him. Allah was giving us the sign that the blessing was coming. It was on the way. It was here. That very thing, that very surah that's in the Quran, when the help comes, the help was already near. We had been throwing our hands up in the air like we didn't know what was going on. And Allah was telling us all the time, it's coming, y'all, it's right there. It's in the name, Barak, the blessing. It means the blessing. Sister Haida, huh? Sister Haida.
I heard the man said, when President Obama was running for president, he said, only two realities is myself and Obama.
Mm-mm. Only two realities, huh?
But,
That's
yeah,
powerful.
He was at Harvey, Illinois, when he said that.
Exactly.
And the name, okay, we say during the month of Ramadan, we say what?
Ramadan Mubarak.
You know, Mubarak, you know, that's what the base word,
Yes.
same thing.
Yes.
His name comes from that same root.
The same root. Barakah. Yes, the same root. Yeah. Go ahead, buddy, man. Yeah, his name is like that.
You know, Allah will give us signs of things to come. So those who are really studying, looking at the signs, studying the signs, and trying to make the connection, we can see.
Yes, yes. His name, once again, yeah, the word Barak, and this is why we understood it so clearly, because it's not just a blessing like when you cross somebody's path, how you doing? Oh, I'm blessed. We'll say that. No, Barak, this term, this expression connotes that it comes from Allah. It don't let you think no other way. This is not a blessing that came from something you did and then this was a consequence. No, Barak, it means it's a blessing and it's directly tied to Allah. His barakah is directly tied to Allah. It's something that Allah has put in it that's specific. It's specific. And it's a great blessing. And it's a blessing that when you get it, you know you got it. You recognize it wholeheartedly. You know you got it. And you are quite happy that you got it. So his name was the sign of the things to come. And then the pendulum shifted all the way to the other extreme. And we wind up with satanic forces in the office and everything that it took the American population through. And now the pendulum swings again to the far other side. I don't say right or left, but it swings again. And it's trying to take us to an extreme. But we already have what gives us balance if we have faith and believe in it, and it is the religion of Al-Islam and Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. All we got to do is just hold on to that, hold on to our faith. The things that are to come as a result of that are going to be so great. Once again, this is what the Prophet wanted, sallallahu alaihi wasallam. This is what he dedicated his life to, that we would come to this conclusion, that we would come to this type of thinking, that we would come to a part in our life and our thinking where we know that everybody's opinion is valid. And that's what he was establishing in Shura, that everybody's opinion is valuable and everybody should have some input. And if it's at all possible, there should be no exemptions. Nobody should fold their arms and say, I'm not going to have anything to say. I'm not going to speak. Then you're taking yourself out of the equation. And then the old adage, if you're not part of the problem, if you're not part of the solution, you're part of the problem, then you're going to be wearing that shirt on your back. So even those folks who've elected to not vote, that's not a good idea. And I'll be honest with you. I'll be transparent with you. I entertained that thought. I did. But we can't. Once again, that's what inspired the talk for sure. Because when that came up, that's what hit me. We have to participate. The principles of Shura, that's what came up. We got to participate. You just got to make a wise choice. So if you don't want to choose either one of those two political parties or the so-called third political party, then you have to find a way to stay engaged. And so I was speaking of the formula that we could most likely use Friday, and the formula was, we was talking about supporting the lesser of the two evils. And even if we ascribe that attribute to Vice President Harris, and I don't, I said, but even if we did describe and say that there was a lesser of the two evils, it would still be a better strategy to support her than to support former President Trump, because he's been very outspoken of what his intentions are, okay? And it's something that Muslims can't afford and African Americans can't afford. The 2025 plan that his party will be putting forth is more devastating to African Americans than anything that's ever been put on law books. So for Black people, Black men in particular, to be talking about voting for this, you voted for your own destruction and doom.
Take the stand of people, they don't say, I just want to say this one out. Is one thing we, as African American people, we need to reflect on our ancestors who actually fought and died, but just to have a right to vote, even though they may not know what candidate they really want to vote for and which one was the best one. And even if they knew and tried to vote for the one, they still intimidated, but they just wanted the right to have to exercise their right.
Yes.
So take a stand and say, I'm not going to vote.
For all what they fought for, what they laid their lives down for. Yes.
And you have the right, but you say, okay,
we take that same approach to education. Our ancestry died for it, for us to have a right to proper public education, not even private, proper public education. And we blew that off. We're so removed from being an educated class it's crazy. It's just crazy. Once again, a man puts some money in all the books and libraries around the country to prove to himself and to others that we don't read. So he went to predominantly African-American communities and went to their libraries and went to certain sections and put money in the books. He was able to get all that money back years later. He left it in there for years. He went and got it all back just to prove how it is we don't read. We don't. And when we do call ourselves reading, we do just that. We parrot words on the paper. When Allah, subhanahu wa ta'ala, when he when the angel Jibril squeezed Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam and said, Iqra, read. Iqra, not, we translated read, but it means to push and prepare, to make this thing happen and squeeze it till it happens. That's where we get the expression, la ikra la fi din. There's no compulsion in religion, because the word ikra, not only does it mean read, but it means to compel. So we can't compel. You can't make nobody be Muslim or study this religion. So to the point, the word ikra then is suggesting to your psychology, not just skim some words on the page, but study. It's talking about study. In Islam, the Arabic expressions, the words and terms in Islam, those Arabic terms take your mind to levels that we used to didn't think like that before we started getting into Quranic Arabic. We weren't able to go to certain levels. So this expression here is telling you just that without you having to see it in the words per se. It's telling you in your own psychology that you must do a study. When you study Quran, we don't read Quran, we study Quran. So ask yourself next time, when the last time I sat down and studied Quran? Not when the last time I sat down and read Quran, because if you sat down and read Quran, then you probably did just that. But if you sat down and studied the Quran, then you're going to know it. Not only will you know it, everybody else will know it, because they'll see you walking and talking it. Allahu Akbar. So this is all we're asked to do in this community. Simple stuff, easy stuff. Allah had cautioned the Prophet, present peace be upon him, on several occasions to not be hard on the people regarding the religion, cautioning him for him not to do anything that would run somebody away, that would turn somebody up from this religion. And even when he came close to that, the admonishment that Allah gave him, we have it in the whole package of surah. He frowned. Abasa, he frowned. So that whole correction is right there on how we have to carry ourselves when we think something is so big and so important that we look at the little person and brush them to the side. Yeah. So we got that. So that's why I said the Quran, 114 chapters, 114 surahs, every one of those are placed there to correct us, to help us live better, to guide us, to make our decision process smoother, more intelligent. 114 chapters. I mean, that's deep in itself. That's got to have a lot of meaning. I'm gonna probably have to look into that.
One of them in the at the beginning of the story, the summary, it gave you a little bit of history.
Yes.
How that came about.
Yes.
Sure.
I'm glad you pointed that out, brother, man. Yeah, because that's how we started out Friday.
Yeah.
Yes.
Some of the things that's covered in that student chapter,
Yes.
section by section.
Yes. The commentary, the history, to Brother Imam's point, the commentary and the history that we was reading in Surah Al-Shura. In a nutshell, he was talking about this concept, this thing came about while the Muslims were still in Mecca. So it was before the Hijrah. And the community was still relatively small. But Allah had inspired the Prophet ﷺ to have insight, meaning he had insight and intuition to know we need a government. We need a structure because the community is going to grow. He knew this. If we're going to grow, if the numbers are going to swell, then we need something that connects us, that keeps us together. We need a structure. That structure is Islamic government. That is the Shura. So the commentary in the beginning of that surah, that's what it alludes to. That's what it's talking about. How the Prophet came together and he knew that they needed some laws, they needed some governance, and he began to construct these things. And Allah blessed him with the concept of Shura. And why? Because he was so mindful and respectful of his colleagues, of the followers, that he didn't want to put himself in a position to be the sole authority. This is what we're fighting now, the possibility of authoritarian rule. I'm telling you, we don't want that. You don't want to go through that. Go study any country where you think, well, dictator, matter, just go back through history. Go study Stalin. Go study Mussolini. Go study Hitler. Go study Pharaoh. For the Greeks, go back and look at all of the Caligulas, all the guys that went under that title, those Roman emperors. And the most fierce, the most destructive, the most dangerous, the most chaotic, the most murderous of them all was Caligula, Emperor Caligula, who was known to have just take his subjects and do atrocious things to them. On one couple's wedding day, he took the male and the female who were being wedded, and they were both virgins, and he went and took their virginity. He took the male's virginity and he took the female's virginity, and then made them go get married. And you talking about that's some sick stuff. But that's the kind of leadership that has existed over time from people or from minds that have decided that we're not going to follow this thing called God. We're not going to follow his law. We're going to do what we feel because we feel we have the authority to do so. And so that's what they set out to do. So we can't afford that kind of mentality in leadership. So I'm just appealing once again, if Black people get a chance to hear this message outside of Islam, outside of this medium here, you all just need to understand that there are no real benefits for you for supporting candidate Vice President Trump. There are no real benefits. Like I said, in his very plan, he's talking about the harm that he plans to do. And so to be a signatory to your own doom, it just don't make sense. Yes, sir.
You know, he talking about locking people up that disagree with him. What you call it? Then was people come out of jail that committed a crime against the Capitol.
Oh, granted them immunity.
Right.
Yeah.
All this kind. And a Muslim that accepted, I don't understand what he's reading. He's supposed to be studying the Quran. And this man is Satan himself.
But that's my point, brother. I don't understand the psychology behind a Muslim. Because you can be a supporter of Muhammad the Prophet and support somebody like Trump. Now, if you say you are, then what you telling me, Negro, I don't care what you talking about. I support the Prophet and I support Trump too. But you can't. It can't be done. We can say with our mouth what we want.
Up there, Prophet up there, he down here.
He ain't even in the league. He's not in the same lane, brother. There is no comparison. There's no comparison. Sister Taida?
Last night he told Kamala, he said, you fired.
TV, theatrical stuff. Fired from what? Who was he appealing to? It just don't make no sense. But like I said, it's the American people. The way the American people are being played is really just an insult to our intelligence. They don't have no respect for the intelligence of the American population. Because for one, you didn't bend the law. Matter of fact, that was another topic I wanted to touch on Friday. Let me glance on this lightly. You didn't bend the law so that you can have your way. This is descriptive in Surah Munafiqun, the hypocrites. The hypocrites. The munafiq is the one who pop up out of a hole, they duck back in, they pop up somewhere else, they duck back and they do pop-ups. But they don't have any real allegiance to anything or anybody. They use this, like the term we talking about, they do pop-ups. They pop up here and make themselves look important, look like they got something going on, then they duck back down in their hole because they have no real commitment and they're not sincere about anything. And they'll turn on their mama in a minute if given the chance. So this is the munafiq, and that's what it means. The munafiq is one he has in a hole. That's what it means. He has in a hole, and he pops up. But when he pops up, it's one of suspicion. It's one of that he's intending to bring about some kind of calamity. It's going to be something negative on the scene. And then they're going to do like the old saying, throw the rock and hide your hands. You know, throw the rock and, I don't know, I didn't have anything to do with that. I was never around.
It's just like the Project 25. You don't know nothing about that.
Well, yeah, we do. They put the whole 1,000 pages out. I haven't had a chance to read it.
He don't.
Yeah, I haven't had a chance to read it, but the parts that they've quoted, as I stated a while ago, the majority of it hurts African Americans. If it has the potential to violate your First Amendment rights, who's that going to hurt more than anybody? Us. If it addresses and attacks the 13th, 14th, and 15th Amendment, which deals with the abolishment of slavery and all that, wow, who's that going to hurt the most? Us. If it threatens your civil liberties, who's that going to hurt the most? Us. And we could just go on down the line, and they're very explicit, I mean, with the language. It's not even in code anything, like they used to talk in code, you know, when the man was first telling us about the Jacobite. They used to talk in code and the secret esoteric language. They ain't even got enough intelligence to do that. So they just out there with it.
I don't know. You
Just come, yeah. And so if it's out there for us to see and for us to read, then it behooves us to avoid it.
First thing when he first went on this campaign tour when he got elected, what he said, make America great again. Let me throw all of them other people out.
According to his concept.
Yeah.
Yeah, their concept for making America great again is reversing policies that made America free like it is. You know, that gave it its freedom. And so they want to take away those freedoms.
Yeah.
You know, and to that point, once again, how can we call ourselves having a so-called democracy where in this democracy we have two political factions and they war with one another like this when they really should be working together? If you get two sides of the room, this is the perfect time to practice Shura, wouldn't you think? You would think that the Democratic Party and the Republican Party would come, as they say, cross the aisles and say, hey, we got to do this for the American people.
Kamala Harris telling us.
Yeah. They're doing everything for special interest groups, which is usually big business, which is usually tied to some multimillionaire, billionaire who wants to do something that borderlines or something selfish. Because once again, you can only get so much money and power. Well, what are you going to do? What are you doing it for? We should ask ourselves that. Why would the so-called Republican Party want all of this so-called power? What are you going to do with it if it's not to help your population, to help the people that you elected to serve? You want the power for persecution and oppression? Yeah. And we just read in the Quran, Allah ain't going to allow that. You might come out the starting gate and you may get some casualties coming out the starting gate, but you're not going to win. You're not going to be victorious. Allah has said this himself. Allah has promised this. The disbelievers will never be victorious over the believers. That's just common sense right there. Because if that was the case, the world really would be in trouble. So when we see these little incidents, these little isolated spots where it looks like the enemy is winning, that's just there. He win a battle there, they get a battle over here, but they can't win the war.
Kamala Harris, when she was a kid in school, a little classmate was having problems at home. And that started her on her way towards humanity, but parent was already activist. We mentioned
that Friday.
Yeah.
We mentioned that the fact that she would have a name, Kamala, somebody in her lineage was Islamically influenced.
Yeah.
And we talked about that. So if her mom was the Indian, right? Or was it her father? The mom was Indian? Okay. Well, heck, 90-something% of India is Muslims. Been Muslim for quite some time. Even the people who don't necessarily Take the column out. The culture is Muslim. The culture is Muslim. So you can't get around that. So it's just like in the Middle East or over in the so-called Islamic countries, Christians got so-called Muslim names, but they Christians. That's because has to do with the language. Yeah, it has to do with that language. So just understanding that there was an influence, the same way with Barak. There was an Islamic presence somewhere in his lineage that his father thought enough that I'm going to name my son Barak. Now, he didn't have a clue that man was going to become the president. He didn't have a clue. But he thought enough about the attributes of Allah that he would give this to his child, hoping that he would live according to those attributes. That's why we have these names. We choose these names because they have attributes that we want to aspire to, or that we should aspire to. That's why we choose these names. And that's why Allah gave us the 99, well, actually 100, because Allah is the 100th name, or the first name. Then you go through all the other 99 attributes. But they're all there because they fit our personalities. They help us in our decisions according to how we are to respond to Quranic injunctions. And that's why Allah Ta'ala, he says that you will follow the Quran according to your own disposition, meaning your own makeup, your own development. That's why we have Muslims here, Muslims here, Muslims here.
And this lady said, the teller said, your name really Abdul Rahim? I said, yes. She said, oh, brother, this name is Rahim. And she asked me, do you know the meaning? I told her, yes. And so I have a lot of different meanings.
I had a book there with all the names, not all of them, but quite a few Muslim names. My book got lost. And actually, that's our name from most of our church.
Oh, with the name book?
Yeah.
The name book. Yeah. Yeah, that was the hit back in the 70s. All of us was in that book. All of us was in that book. Yes. Yes, that was a beautiful process.
A lot of them know.
Yeah.
Because they family, some of their family.
But to your point, Brother Raheem, even when one of our Christian brothers or sisters named their child an Islamic name, for the first name. Yeah, and that child grew up and be held on 2 feet. They got their Muslim name. Tahir.
Yeah, something like that.
The jails is half full with it now. There was a time you never heard the name. Abdullah, you got to visit. He running up there to the bar. There was a time you didn't hear that. Now almost half of Cook County, they got young people in there with Muslim names. Usually their first name is a Muslim name because that parent at some point came into contact with Islam. But they didn't have the strength to come on in. They didn't have the strength to grow and raise their child with the Islamic principles. But they got that close by giving them the name. Yes.
Around the neighborhood, he told me his name. And I asked him, I said, why you acting the way you do? He said, oh, my dad was a Muslim. I ain't no Muslim.
If only he knew what he was saying.
You not practicing your character.
You told him right.
Yeah.
You told him right. Sister Tayyida?
My daughter, she had ran across this book, and it was our names in there, and she was the one that picked Tawhida for me. So I asked her, I said, well, what do Tawhida mean? She said, believe in one God.
Wow. Alhamdulillah. Yeah. Yes, that is. Tawhida, belief in one God. Our first principle. Yeah. Yeah, that's the first principle out of the 5 principles. Can't go nowhere without that. You got this, and that's why the Prophet Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam worked so hard. The first 13 years of his ministry was to establish Tawheed and Salat. That's why they're in that order. That's why it's in that order. Yeah, that's just why it's in it. It took 11 to 13 years to really establish that because first 10 years or so, they prayed in private. They didn't even pray in the public. So this was half of the mission where he had to use that strategy, which was a beautiful strategy. It wasn't one that he used because he was afraid. It was wise, and he was protecting the followers. And Allah gave him that to protect the followers. And that's why he was blessed with those strategies, to protect the followers and expand the religion. And Allah was showing him every step of the way that he was with it. Like I said, the only time there was a, probably won't even fit on my nail, that kind of a doubt with the prophet, that was cleared up. And that's cleared up in this surah, the help. It's explained and it's cleared up right in this surah, the help. And why does Allah even preserve something like that? He's always told us the prophet's human. Mithlukum basharun, a mortal man just like you and me. He was human. So he had to preserve some of those things so we wouldn't get spooked out. Look at the spooky mentality that has invaded religious culture because the people were misinformed. They was given spooky information. They was given information that allowed their saints, their good believers, to be put out on a pedestal so far where they couldn't be reached, i.e. in the case of Isa, Jesus alayhi salam. As the Imam had explained it, they shot him so far in space, they couldn't reach him, can't even identify with him because they pushed him out there so far, they couldn't even identify with his character, his attributes, because they put him out there as a point of no return, a point where they couldn't even understand the language that was being given to them to teach them about Isa. It was like this. They didn't have the mental acumen to even deal with it.
You know, like after Jesus' death, it was what 40,000 years, 300 or 400 years before they started writing behind him.
Well, actually, the best writings, it was 600 years, so that's when Muhammad came. Those are the best writings. The research that I've done, and you can do this on your own, it showed me that the best method, or the best teachings, I should say, for Isa alayhi salam, the best teachings, the most clear teachings came from the Muslims. Yeah, because the Muslims compile the information according to inspiration. We are taught to accept all the books. And so in compiling information on Isa, there could be no bias. There could be no prejudice allowed, according to Islamic ruling principles. So that information was compiled and given to its exactness as best we know. Now, the reason why we say this because from the time that Esau left the scene and Muhammad came on the scene, if there's a period of 600 years, that's not a lot of time back then. Just like if we 2024 and we go back 500 years, we can still see things that are quite credible that we can accept. Yeah, that probably did happen because it wasn't that long ago. So this is how they was able to establish that authenticity, because we had the Sahaba, they carrying the teachings. After the Sahaba, we had the Tabi'in. They followed the Sahaba. They carrying the teachings. So those teachings about Isa were kept pure to the best of one's ability. And not to mention that they're in the Quran for all time. So simply by that being in the Quran, we got a better perception and a better understanding and more information and insight on Isa than probably most Christians.
The past, the present, and the future.
It corrects it all.
Right.
It corrects it all.
And give you a better understanding, broader understanding.
It corrects it all. That's the beauty. That's the beauty of the Quran. You ever pay attention to the recitation of Al-Fatiha? Tired of it? That's why it's recited after every prayer. If you try to recite prayer outside Al-Fatiha repetitively like you do Al-Fatiha, it won't work. You won't remember much of it. It won't stick. This is something that only Allah could do. It's a beautiful expression where Allah is showing once again his control over things. And the power of Al-Fatiha, why we got to say it so many times, why it's so important, and why every time you do say it's fresh. Every recitation of Al-Fatiha after every prayer is still fresh. The mind doesn't get dull because it's constantly reminding you of these very important things. Allah is the most gracious, the most merciful. Allah is the cherisher and the sustainer of all the world. And this is one of the most important parts in Al-Fatiha because this is the part that corrects the Bible. This corrects the Bible because Allah is Rabbil Alameen, the Lord of all the systems of knowledge. In the Bible, he's only the Lord of Israel. When you read the Bible, and especially in the Old Testament, that's the only expression, the only time God is the Lord of something. It's telling he's the Lord of Israel. It never says Christians, he's the Lord of anything else. It don't even say he's the Lord of the animals. It say he's the Lord of Israel, and that's it. That's a misnomer. That's bad business for spiritual development because now you're telling this particular people that they're the chosen of Allah and ain't nobody else favorable.
They're still looking for a Messiah.
Well, yeah, hey, they got a lot of folks doing that now. The Messiah complex don't just apply to them. We got caught in that conundrum too. Matter of fact, that's our problem. We got a Messiah complex worse than any other ethnic group. We are just like they used to say the Indian was. If you kill the chief, then the rest of the Indians go away. That's us. We always invest in one entity. When that entity goes away, we fall apart. We went through that with Elijah Muhammad, rahimahullah. We went through that with Imam Muhammad, rahimahullah. We went through that because the investment was wrong. Not the focus, it was wrong. We had it on just the physicality and not on the spiritual development, not on that plane. So we missed that ride, we missed that boat, and it cost us. But Allah, in his attribute of Rahim, he kept us in the fold. And so we got this today.
Teaching and telling us.
Yeah, that's what I'm just saying. Allah didn't give up. The teachings didn't give up. We give up. Yeah, we give up.
You do for yourself.
Look,
the
the teachings are going to be here. They're going to be around, just like the Quran been around here 1,450 some years now. It's going to be here. When we long gone, it's going to be here. And it's going to keep coming and correcting those souls, those people who believe in it. It won't be no other way. That's why this book, that's why it opens up and it talks the way it does. It says, this is for those who believe. It only mentions this is for the Muslims, I don't think it's 10 times in the Quran, where it says, Ya ayyuha al-muslimun. It says, Ya ayyuha mu'minun. Oh, you that believe, those who believe. So it's talking about across the board, be you Christian, Sabian, or Jew. And then the Quran goes on to say, if you are a doer of good, your reward is with who? Your Lord.
Very few sincere.
Yeah, well, the insincere ones, they fall under that umbrella that we was talking about for the last several weeks. They got to fall under the principle of mukhlisin lahudin. They got to get purified. And that's what that term expresses, sincerity in faith, sincerity in the religion. Mukhlisin lahudin. Yeah, the mukhlis, the one who is sincere. Yeah, the mukhlis, the one who is sincere about their religion. Their intentions are sincere. Everything that they do, it has to do with that. This is what the prophet was wrapped up in, and this is what he was trying to model for us. He was established for us, so that we would see that. And he himself, once again, just a little doubt, just a little doubt. When he had that, Allah told him what? He said, rise up, oh you who are wrapped up Yeah, you had Muzamil. Oh, you who are wrapped up. Because the prophet had been given the revelation and the knowledge and it was growing. But he just needed a little bit more confidence. And then Allah reminds him in this surah, in Muzamil, you got it. And then in the next following surah, Mudathir, he comes out. He out in the public now. He out there, as we used to say, he out there spitting that thing, teaching. He out there teaching like it's supposed to be, and with great confidence. And then the religion expands. It begins to grow to the point now they got to leave Mecca. Got to go find your own home where you can grow, grow in purity. So they leave, they go to Yathrib that we now know as Medina. They establish the community. Then it grows and it grows and it grows, the influence and it grows and it grows and it grows. And here we are with this barakah today in Al-Islam. We got it today. So praise be to Allah. We went a few minutes over our time. Sorry for that, you all. I do love and try to respect our time. But if there are not any more questions or concerns, we're going to close out. Oh, before we do, Brother, you gonna make some announcements? I want to start with, do not forget that in about a couple of weeks, we're going to have a very, how should I say, a wonderful venue for entertainment. You all know about this. It was announced Friday in the announcements. Do for Self. Yeah, brother Dennis Muhammad's organization, Do for Self. They're putting on this wonderful, wonderful event in which the Harold Melvin and the Blue Notes and what's the other group? I don't have my info in front of me. Ray Goodman and Brown. Yeah, Ray Goodman and Brown. They're going to be performing. If you have not seen the information, dear believers, if you have not set out to get tickets, you don't want to miss this event. Oh, thank you, Sister Zara. Thank you. All right, so here we go. Yes, Do for Self. It's the Distinguished Achievement Awards. Gala black tie event, honor rolls and shiros, live entertainment and dinner. It's going to be Saturday, November the 16th, 2024, Hilton Hotel, Oak Lawn, Illinois. That's 9333 South Cicero. It's going to be in the Grand Ballroom. This brochure that I have here is going to be back on the bulletin board, so you might want to take a picture of it in order to be able to purchase your tickets. You can go to Eventbrite or you can go to PayPal. On the poster here, there are ways for you to scan this so you can get this information. You all know about that little technology with them phones and stuff. I don't too much be dealing with all that technology. It still gets to intimidate me sometimes. So if we don't have any more concerns or questions about today's talk, then we are going to, with grace and beauty, move out into our respective areas of the world. That is, be you going home or wherever you might go. We ask for the Allah bless you with a most wonderful day and a peaceful day. Stay peaceful, stay blessed. And for those who have not had a chance to hear this message, let's share this with them. I don't particularly know how many people on the broadcast, but please, let's share this message with one another, what we've heard here today. Let's drum up support, first and foremost, for Deen al-Islam, and then secondly, for the rest of the world to get on board of what we're trying to do. I'll close out with a small dua, and our resident imam.
Say something.
Okay, I will not close out with a small dua. Our resident imam is going to come up and have some words for us, but I will leave you as I came before you with the words and the greetings of peace. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullah wa barakatuhu.
Takbir.
Allahu Akbar.
Yeah.
Allahu Akbar. Allahu Akbar.
We read one announcement, we talked about Brother Dennis.
Oh, yeah,
Oh.
this one, I did that.
Yeah, okay, that's,
All right.
be careful of that. Just, very briefly, I just want to, remind everyone of the time change. We know our time went back 1 hour. So remember, this Friday, our Juma will be starting a little earlier. It'll be starting an hour early we'll be holding Juma starting at noon, 12 o'clock instead of 1 o'clock. So please keep that in mind, make a note of it, mental note, written note, however you want to jot it down to remind you, because you don't want to come walking in at 1 o'clock and we're walking out. So,
And you know that's gonna happen.
You can stay for Arabic classes, I mean, the Arabic
but yes, yeah, we'll be.
lunch.
So yeah, well, our class will be still going on immediate following Juma. Also, there's an event coming up this weekend at the Masjid Al Taqwa. Is this Saturday, right? It's the ninth. Yes.
Next Saturday.
No, this coming Saturday. Next Saturday, 1 week. Taqwa, I think between 11, if not the, Imam Muhammad's leadership, celebrating his leadership. And I think it's kind of centering around his birthday, which is sometime in October, which is past. Imam Muhammad, and one thing I knew about him, he shied away from celebrating his birthday. Yeah.
Yeah, he did.
So, the four birds. It's a event at Masjid Taqwa. I think it started at 11 o'clock from 11 to 1. And we invite us, everyone to join and support that event. Of course, Brother Imam mentioned the event at the Hilton Hotel, sponsored by Brother Dennis. So he just made that announcement. In December.
If I may, before you go on, I want to really emphasize why Imam Muhammad
Oh, yeah.
did not get into celebrating his birthday, because it's something we're gonna have to probably talk about over and over, because there are Muslims who are not privy to that information. They were not in the community, some are young or new. The reason being is on the same principles why we don't celebrate the Prophet's birthday. There are some factions in the Muslim community, they have big celebrations, but the Prophet forbade this. You gotta understand this. So one thing we do know in Islam, the process of Islamic, meaning your own Islam, you do it the way you want, is very prevalent. So people gonna do what they want, but they do need to know and understand that the Prophet forbade that. He was against the celebration of his birthday. He was against, matter of fact, in one of the hadiths, he even said, he prayed, he made a dua to Allah. He said, don't let these people do to me like they did Esau, meaning deify him. He was very cautious of that. That was a constant dua of his. He didn't want to be done like what they did to Jesus.
Well, see, that's the way the man was. If he seen that you was trying to do this with him,
He did shut it down. Yeah, he could shut it down.
Yeah.
But see, our people, we get sentimental and emotional.
yeah.
That's our problem. The African American is the most sentimental and emotional creature on earth.
Right.
And we get caught up in our feelings, and then we don't want to correct nothing because we into our feelings. Now, brother just said this, but they want to do a celebration anyway.
I don't think it's really celebrating his birthday. It's actually about it giving explanations on some of the things that he had taught.
See, they need the title as such.
I'm not sure that the title.
Don't give the impression that we come together for his birthday. Make sure that in the title or in the invite that it has to explain why you come together, why we doing these things. We keep misleading one another because we don't want to speak up about stuff.
That's what I told Sister Leila one time.
But one of the things that Brother Ibrahim, Imam, about giving gifts, I remember him saying this here, or either saying it or reading it, that he said we shouldn't look for someone to give us a present on our birthday. He said if we want to, the best thing to do is give our mother a present. And, so
It should be Brother Muhammad Day.
he said, wait, on your birthday, it would be nice if you give your mother, if she's still living, give your mother a present. And I mean, you can just look at the logic of that yourself.
They call it Claire Muhammad.
Well, anyway, this is,
Make a point, a fine point about, when time go back. When you're trying to get the prayer over, you're trying to.
Yes,
That's
yes.
a fine point.
Man, I got so distracted about bunch of things, right? Yeah. The reason why, the reason for the prayer or the time going back, it makes the prayers closer because what that symbolizes that you're closer to Allah. So the prayer times are closer together, which actually makes your conscious of Allah more broader because soon as you finish your prayer, you still in taqwa. You still thinking about when the next prayer is coming in, which is usually in an hour and a half, next prayer is coming in. So that time frame itself increases your taqwa. Because you really ain't got time for a lot of nonsense because the prayers are so close. And that's why we was talking Friday, we was talking about the reason why Allah made prayer at a stated time is just for that. It's to regulate your taqwa. Keep your taqwa in check so that throughout these stages or periods of the day, you constantly are reminded of Allah. You ain't got time to get in trouble or make trouble for yourself, even though we do. But if you stay conscious of this like this, your troubles will be at a minimum. Because this is what taqwa is. It's staying conscious of Allah all the time.
yes, sir, absolutely. In December, we have our social coming up. December, I think what is the second Saturday in December or the third?
Yes, so that would be December, yeah, that's the social.
Anyway,
December 7th.
December 7th. Oh yeah, December 7th. There's not tickets, man.
No, not for the social game.
That's social.
Celebration of life.
Come on, man, do your karaoke singing.
Okay, I'm confused now. We doing birthday celebration, so.
No, this is this. That's what it used to be called.
Prominent, let me say this, Sister God. Because I understand where you're coming from, and there is a technical righteousness to that. Leaders like Imam Muhammad, leaders like Prophet Muhammad, we can't do that on their level because of that national status and the read that the people get. At some point, it's going to smack of deifying. It's the same way, that's how Jesus got, it didn't start out like that. It probably was small. But by the time it got to where it is, escalated to where it is now, Jesus gets deified. But it didn't start out that way.
Yeah.
So when we're celebrating, and we're definitely not doing it in the traditional sense like we were brought up. You've been to the events here. It's a social. And we only use that language, I guess, because we got no better way.
You could just not call it birthday, you just call it the.
No, we don't. It is. This celebration. We don't call it the birthday. We just know.
We started off calling
so
that.
people in content, they know why we come together is to recognize everybody's nativity day within that last quarter.
But so see, that's what, okay, I thought it was just a general quarterly social.
It is.
It is.
It happens to.
No, the impetus.
It happens to acknowledge the people that did
And
have
just-
birthdays, but that can always be secondary, but the main thing is the quarterly.
Social.
Social.
It's a
like
social.
seasonal social.
Social get together.
Which is why we have the language the way it is, because at one time, the word birthday was in there.
So I can tell.
And we took that out.
Trying to take it out.
Yeah, no, you can take it out. It's the celebration of life. That's the original.
Life celebration, I think that's sister called it.
That's the agreed upon title from the Muslims. That's what we
What is
agreed
it
upon.
called? Say it called.
Life's,
Life.
what was it? What is it?
It was called life.
Celebration of life.
It was called life celebration. But let's go ahead and close out, and then we can continue to call.
Okay.
Let's call out with Bismillahir Rahmanir Rahim. Wal as inna insana lafi khusr illa alladhina amanu wa amilus solihat wa tawasaw bil haqq wa tawasaw bis sabr. Sallallahu alaihi wasallam.
So celebration of life, life celebration.
I think it was life celebration.
Every time you wake up.